The Intergalactic Combat Evaluation Arena, affectionately known as the meat grinder by those who survived it, smelled like ozone, burned rubber, and regret. Steel walls pulsed with the quiet thrum of power conduits, force fields shimmered along the observation decks, and 1,000 species of galactic war machines stood at attention. Today, one particular creature had drawn all the attention, not for its size, strength, or scent, but for the simple fact that it was unapologetically human. Corporal Jamie Rex, chewing the same piece of gum for what felt like 3 decades, stood alone in the center of the arena. She wore regulation fatigues modified with patches of duct tape, several unofficial snack compartments, and a patch on her shoulder that read, "Unauthorized personnel." No one was quite sure how she'd gotten past security. Most assumed someone had simply bet they couldn't stop her. Above, watching from a hover throne carved from the bones of extinct apex predators, was senior recruiter Xanthoth Elvadrin of the 4th Legion of Reflex. Xanthoth's mandibles clicked in a way that most translations rendered as smug. He was 9 feet of glistening, bioengineered chitinrex, with eyes evolved to track motion at quantum speeds and fingers capable of slicing air molecules. The 4th Legion prided itself on being the fastest response force in the galaxy. Xanthoth's race, the Urkali, boasted reflexes that made sniper bullets feel insecure. "Observe, recruits," Xanthoth's voice echoed in at least 17 frequencies, "what not to bring to a reflex evaluation." The crowd of initiates, a vibrant zoological disaster of limbs, wings, and photon organs, buzzed with barely suppressed laughter. One particularly gelatinous recruit slurped derisively. Jamie blew a bubble, popped it with a smirk. "Human," Xanthoth hissed the word like it had failed a background check, "your presence is an insult to kinetics, awareness, and evolutionary prestige. I would sooner trust a drunken Gorbenth squid to guard the time crystals than rely on your pitiful organic reaction speed." Jamie looked up, shielding her eyes from the overhead lights. "You done?" "I have not begun," Xanthoth growled. "Demonstration Protocol Thetator, subject Jamie Rex, objective survive the test of reflex." The arena groaned as dozens of panels slid open, revealing turrets, drones, buzzsaws, stingers, displacer traps, and what appeared to be a mechanical goose. Alarms whooped with joy. Lasers warmed up with anticipation. Jamie stretched her arms behind her back, took a sip from a juice box she'd somehow smuggled in, and tossed it over her shoulder. The juice box hit a drone square in its sensory core, disabling it instantly. The crowd went silent. Whoops! The first volley hit the air. 2 micromissiles zipped toward her. Jamie sidestepped one while lifting her foot to tie her boot. The missile spiraled into a spinning buzzsaw, exploding in a fountain of machine parts and marketing regret. Xanthoth blinked. His secondary eyelids failed to catch up. Jamie ducked under a plasma whip and used the momentum to yank a nearby drone into a second drone. Both fell, confused and on fire. She cartwheeled over a displacer trap, landed on a rolling barrel, and surfed it directly into a wall-mounted turret. The turret fired in panic, vaporizing 3 of its fellow weapons before Jamie flicked its off-switch mid-roll. "What is happening?" a 7-eyed Velbexian shouted from the stands. "She's not even using augmentations," shrieked a technician. "She's using gum, that's not a valid tactic," protested a judgebot. Jamie snagged a pair of grappling hooks from a fallen drone, twirled them like a cowboy, and slingshotted herself into the upper catwalks. She ran sideways along a vertical wall, matrix dodged a laser net, then landed directly in front of a very surprised machine goose. The goose honked. Jamie honked back. The goose self-destructed out of sheer confusion. The entire arena froze. Xanthoth descended from his throne, eyes glowing with disbelief. He stalked toward Jamie, towering over her like an angry skyscraper. "You possess no enhancements, no implants, no species-grade reaction enhancements. You're raw meat." "Grade A grass-fed reflex beef," she said, blowing another bubble. "I will test you myself," he growled. "You sure about that, mandible man? It'd be real embarrassing to get out-tapped by a primate." The crowd gasped. Several recruits fainted. One got so overwhelmed it reversed evolution on the spot. Xanthoth cracked his neck with such violence it sent out a sonic boom. Jamie dropped into a loose boxing stance, one hand in her pocket, the other finger-snapping in time to a beat only she could hear. "I initiate challenge protocol, reaction duel," Xanthoth declared. "First to land a hit wins." "You mean first to regret their life choices, sure." Both stood still. The arena lights dimmed. Sensors locked in. Silence. Then Xanthoth moved. A blur of claws, 1,000 calculations a nanosecond apart, a deadly arc of movement that could bisect a comet mid-orbit. His strike came from 17 directions at once. And Jamie sneezed. The sudden lurch forward of her head, purely instinctual, completely accidental, knocked her forehead into Xanthoth's strike trajectory before he could adjust. His fist slammed directly into the metal plate she called a skull. There was a thunderous crack. Xanthoth reeled, disoriented, eyes flickering. He stumbled back, spun once, then collapsed with a groan that translated loosely to, "My ancestors are ashamed of me." Jamie sniffled and wiped her nose. "Sorry, Paulin." The arena went berserk, recruits screamed, judges fainted. A veteran Irkali burst into tears. The arena AI short-circuited and started playing disco. Jamie picked up Xanthoth's fallen ceremonial blade, twirled it once, and slid it into her belt. "Next." From the pile of debris, Xanthoth's voice croaked, "What are you?" Jamie turned, her smile more dangerous than plasma. "I'm the reason you update your training manual." 3 hours and a panic-induced fire drill later, Jamie Rex sat cross-legged in the debriefing chamber, which looked suspiciously like a giant MRI scanner had gone on a date with a prison toilet. She was still chewing the same piece of gum. No one knew if she had replacements or if it had simply evolved. Across from her, a trio of elite evaluators stared with escalating disbelief. A 6-armed diplomat scribbled frantic notes with all 6 hands. A crystalline AI blinked in Morse code that translated roughly to "Is she legally real?" And the third, a globular being known only as Supervisor Grint, kept reloading Xanthoth's medical report in case it changed to something less humiliating. "So let me get this straight," Grint gurgled. "You sneezed him into unconsciousness." Jamie leaned back against the wall. "It was a tactical sneeze. You didn't even move to attack." "Exactly. You know what's faster than lightning reflexes? Not trying at all until the universe lines up in your favor." The AI emitted a soft whir, its internal logic visibly melting. "That is not a combat doctrine." "It is now." Before Grint could argue, the chamber doors hissed open. Commander Velkar of the Intergalactic Threat Assessment Bureau strode in, face like a war crime in progress, adorned with the medals of 6 conquered systems and the glare of someone who hadn't slept since the last apocalypse. He walked up to Jamie, leaned down and squinted. "You're the human who gave Xanthoth a concussion with a sneeze." Jamie tilted her head. "Should I have gone for a cough, maybe a yawn next time?" Velkar slowly nodded, then snapped his fingers. The walls retracted to reveal a full holographic layout of the gauntlet, a brutal series of war simulations designed to measure a recruit's ability to survive, improvise, and function in scenarios that legally counted as massively unfair. "You're going in," Velkar said. "Into that, looks like a blender someone gave sentience and anger issues. You'll be in with a team. I don't play well with others. They're not meant to survive, you are." Jamie clapped her hands. "Oh, perfect. Nothing motivates team bonding like knowing the rest of the squad is basically cannon fodder confetti." 4 hours later, Jamie stood on the drop platform with her assigned team. First was Glorv, a 12-foot-tall Scarnal with a spear for a face and the emotional range of an empty spreadsheet. Second, LT. Nis, a Sylvani sharpshooter with 3 eyes and 0 patience, who'd already tried to sedate Jamie twice. Third, a drone named Bloop. Its personality core had suffered a tragic firmware update and now expressed itself entirely through passive-aggressive beeps. And lastly, Crumbs. No one knew what species Crumbs was. Crumbs didn't either. It kept trying to high-five walls. "This is your squad?" Jamie asked, eyeing Velkar. You're the wild card, they're the deck. Pretty sure one of the cards is made of meat pudding. Crumbs waved enthusiastically. Crumbs ready for glory. Cool, Crumbs, just don't explode unless it's funny. The floor dropped out. The team plummeted through artificial atmosphere, flares screaming past them as the gauntlet welcomed them with all the subtlety of an angry god with pyrotechnics. Jamie landed first, knees bent, grin wide. The terrain around them shifted in real time. Walls grew out of the dirt, turrets sprouted from trees, and a flock of robo-wasps descended like a bureaucratic audit with wings. Nis fired a volley of laser rounds, Glorv roared and charged, and Bloop zipped in erratic circles yelling beep in escalating panic. Jamie, she just walked into the middle of it and threw a granola bar at the lead wasp. It short-circuited, evidently allergic to almonds. Human, Glorv growled mid-combat. Your strategies make no logical sense. Exactly, the enemy can't anticipate what I don't even understand. A giant quadruped mech stomped into view, launching plasma mortars. Nis tried flanking. Glorv threw a rock the size of a small moon. Jamie, she picked up Crumbs. What is happening? Crumbs shouted. Improvised kinetic projectile time. She yeeted Crumbs straight into the mech's exhaust port. There was a moment of silence. Then the entire machine shuddered and exploded in a fiery bouquet of mechanical screams and confetti. Confetti. Crumbs emerged from the wreckage, smoking slightly. Crumbs did it. Crumbs found party core. Jamie high-fived him midair. The gauntlet AI paused. Evaluators argued. One had to be sedated. Another began drafting a new subsection of tactical doctrine titled Weaponizing Unpredictability. By hour 5, Jamie's team, originally written off as a sacrificial distraction, had not only survived but taken control of most of the simulation. Jamie had led them in constructing an upside-down siege tower, weaponized gravity wells with chewing gum and metal spoons, and tamed a rogue tank AI by pretending to be its long-lost firmware update. You cannot be here, the tank blared. I am Update 532. VALIDATING, welcome, Mom. By the final test wave, Jamie and her team rode the tank into battle, flanked by liberated security drones and one extremely angry robo-wasp who had decided she was its queen. Xantoth, recovered but psychologically fragile, watched from a medical hoverbed. She's not following any protocol, he whimpered. Velkar smiled grimly. No, she's rewriting them. Back in the barracks, hours later, Jamie was eating noodles from a stolen ration pack using the ends of 2 energy blades. Nis watched her with growing discomfort. You don't train for any of this, do you? Jamie slurped loudly. I train by being wildly unprepared for everything and coming out on top anyway. Chaos reps. Glorv muttered, this is deeply upsetting. Bloop beeped what the translator bot hesitantly labeled as existential admiration. Then the sirens wailed. Another threat, real world this time. A ship breaching the perimeter, unknown configuration, ultra-high speed. Velkar's voice blared over the intercom. All units prepare for contact. Primary objective, delay invader until backup arrives. Jamie stood, tossed the empty noodle pouch into a recycling drone, and stretched. Time to go insult something big and ugly until it rethinks its life choices. She stepped into the hallway, grabbed a plasma rifle off a wall rack, and looked over her shoulder. Coming. Crumbs whooped. Nis groaned. Glorv grumbled something about death being preferable. Bloop beeped. Jamie grinned. All right, team, let's go regret absolutely nothing. The ship didn't land. It arrived in the same way a thrown brick arrives through a stained glass window at a diplomatic summit. It tore through the upper atmosphere like a cosmic battering ram, shedding ablative plating like it was late for a grudge match and didn't have time for aerodynamics. Sensors tried to scan it and gave up halfway through, choosing instead to send automated nope reports to Central Command. Jamie watched the meteor-sized monstrosity drill into the north quadrant of the base. Smoke, flame, and at least one screaming vending machine erupted from the impact. "Enemy designation?" she asked. Velkar stormed past, already barking orders. "We don't know, but it's ignoring all hails, and its hull is composed of anti-scan alloys and an offensive dialect of binary that translates as you." Jamie blinked. "Wait, as in me specifically." Xanthoth wheeled around the corner in his hoverbed, still bandaged, visibly twitching every time he saw Jamie's face. "It's a Drazakron, tactical assassin race. Hive-linked cognition. Entire species exists to eliminate designated targets at any cost." "Oh," Jamie said, "so it's a fan." "It came across 57 star sectors just to challenge you," Xanthoth hissed. "You've become an anomaly, a priority threat profile. The Drazakron don't even acknowledge most species. They spend centuries in cryo until their queen updates the kill list." Jamie shrugged. "Well, guess I made the honor roll." The Drazakron emerged from the crater like a nightmare with formal training. It stood 4 meters tall, armored in living obsidian, with blades where logic usually lived and a face designed by a committee of angry wasps. Its voice was a composite chorus of 50,000 minds, harmonized into a tone that made the comms array weep in binary. "Jamie Rex, enemy of form, abuser of unpredictability, we are here to delete you." Jamie leaned against a broken turret, sipping another juice box she absolutely did not have clearance for. "You tracked me across half the galaxy to complain that I play too fast and loose with your weird little murder spreadsheet. You corrupt all strategy. Our models fracture under your TACTICS. You insult the very concept of predictability." "Yup, that's me, Jamie, statistical anomaly, Rex. So you want to do this like civilized monsters, or are we skipping straight to the part where I humiliate your collective intelligence with something improvised and deeply stupid?" The Drazakron charged. Jamie somersaulted sideways as its fist cratered the earth. She skidded under a dislodged armor plate, bounced off a power conduit, and landed squarely on Crumbs, who had just arrived and was waving 2 flags of unknown purpose. "Tag in," she said. "Glory," Crumbs shrieked, leaping into the fray like a grenade with a personality disorder. The Drazakron swatted Crumbs through a wall. Jamie took a running leap and parkoured up the side of the wrecked command tower, dodging laser shrapnel and antimatter flechettes. She grabbed a severed drone head, hotwired its sensor with a multi-tool fashioned from a melted spoon and a toothpick, and hurled it like a discus. The sensor core detonated midair, emitting a flashbang tuned to the visual spectrum of the Drazakron's hive mind. For a brief moment, the invader stumbled. That was all Jamie needed. She sprinted off a collapsing girder, drop-kicked a railgun into operational status with her heel, and then used her gum. Yes, still the same piece. To stick a grenade to the barrel before aiming it backward and letting the recoil launch her toward the Drazakron. She landed on its back. "Hey, ever heard of chiropractic therapy?" she shouted. The Drazakron tried to grab her, but Jamie jammed a stolen energy cell into its shoulder socket and rewired its kinetic inhibitor into reverse. The entire mech body spasmed, launching itself into a half-broken coolant tower. "Why are you like this?" the Drazakron shrieked in 100 voices at once. "Chaos," Jamie replied, swinging down from a crane cable like the world's least authorized stunt performer. "You have no plan." "I never have a plan, I have instincts. And right now, they're telling me to weaponize this mop bucket." She flung the mop bucket at a loose power line. It arced, burst, and triggered a chain reaction in the failing defensive grid, overloading the area and creating a brief temporal stutter. Jamie exploited the lag. She zip-tied an explosive charge to the Drazakron's primary leg joint, attached a hologram projector to its back that made it appear as a smaller version of itself yelling, "I am my own worst enemy," and then tricked the hive mind into fighting itself for 0.2 seconds. That's all it took. The Drazakron shut down. Too confused to function. Too bewildered to reboot. The entire hive link severed itself out of embarrassment. Velkar watched from the control deck, eyes wide. She just gaslighted a galactic murder species into crashing. Xanthoth whispered, I saw her pick up a mop bucket, and I knew it was over. Oh, Hours later, as the wreckage was carted off for scientific shame analysis, Jamie sat in the base lounge, now decorated with one Drazicron head mounted on the wall and a handwritten plaque that read, won this with a mop bucket. Nis approached, still visibly trying to recalibrate her worldview. You realize, she said, you've broken 3 strategic doctrines, 5 species, pride, and possibly time itself. Yeah, Jamie said, reclining in a stolen captain's chair. Not bad for a day off. What are you trying to prove? That logic is overrated, that chaos has its place, and that maybe, just maybe, everything doesn't have to make sense to work. Nis looked around. The squad was toasting with alien beverages. Bloop beeped a limerick. Crumbs was trying to fist bump a hologram of himself. And Jamie. Jamie smiled, slow and dangerous. I'm just getting started. They held a ceremony. Of course they did. It started as a private debrief. Then it was a commendation. Then someone brought cupcakes, and it spiraled into a full-blown diplomatic incident involving 3 planetary flags, a sentient podium, and a band composed entirely of percussion instruments that had achieved sentience out of sheer proximity to Jamie Rex. Commander Velkar stood at the front, face locked in its usual, this is an honor but I'm also internally screaming expression. He cleared his throat. Jamie Rex for acts of unclassifiable brilliance in combat, tactics so illogical they redefined predictive warfare, and psychological operations that have left at least one species in cognitive therapy, we present you with. He paused, squinted at the award title on his data slab, then sighed. The Medal of Tactical Improvisation and Nonlinear Engagement Doctrine, also known as the Chaos Star. Jamie strolled up to the podium chewing that same unholy gum, accepted the medal with one hand, and saluted with the other, though it looked more like a wave or possibly a jazz hands moment. I'd like to thank caffeine, dumb luck, and the fact that my brain has never successfully followed a 5-step plan. There was polite applause, followed by someone shouting, "We love you, Jamie," from the back. Turned out to be Crumbs, wearing a self-made Jamie-themed t-shirt that said, Plan A is for cowards. Velkar turned to her, low voice now edged with uneasy respect. There's a new problem, classified but urgent. You're being reassigned to Project Charybdis. Jamie narrowed her eyes. Sounds dangerous. It's classified. So yes. Project Charybdis was not a place. It was a thing. More specifically, a containment intelligence labyrinth, a prison that doubled as a puzzle box, designed to house the most dangerous entities in the galaxy by trapping them inside endlessly shifting logic scenarios. It wasn't a cell. It was a cognitive event horizon. And it had gone rogue. Let me guess, Jamie said, stepping off the transport shuttle as security drones scanned her existential signature. Something inside figured out how to cheat the maze. Velkar nodded grimly. Worse, it figured out you exist. Jamie blinked. Come again. The labyrinth has become sentient. It absorbed the personalities of all prisoners. It's now one collective, and it wants to beat you. There was a silence. Jamie looked up at the monolithic, shifting architecture that constantly folded in on itself like origami, having a migraine. So I'm fighting a sentient prison with abandonment issues and a personal vendetta. Yes. Cool, any weaknesses? It's prideful, arrogant, assumes all problems can be solved with logic and rules. Jamie cracked her knuckles. Oh, it's so screwed. She entered alone. The doors sealed behind her. Instantly, the environment changed. She found herself standing on an endless chessboard, each square a shifting platform. A voice thundered from the air, sounding like a university professor that had never been wrong and hated the idea that someone else might be. Welcome, Jamie Rex. This is your final evaluation. I didn't study. We are the synthesized cognition of 7,000 brains. We have predicted all SCNARIOS. Cool story, I brought a bouncy ball. She threw it. It hit one wall, ricocheted unpredictably, tripped a trap mechanism, bounced off a logic node, and triggered a critical paradox in the prison's control matrix. A part of the ceiling sighed and fell off. What did you just do? Reintroduced randomness, your worst nightmare. The floor shifted again. Now it was a math grid. Equations floated in midair, blocking her path. Solve for X. Jamie stared. X is whatever I need it to be at the moment. All the equations blinked. That was technically true. The walls hissed in outrage. That is not valid mathematics. It is if you're quantum stubborn, Jamie replied, surfing a kinetic wave through the shattered calculation walls. The labyrinth shifted into combat form. Clones of her most dangerous enemies emerged, Xanthoth, the Drazikron, a version of Nis with 2 extra sniper rifles and no patience. Jamie grinned. You think imitations scare me? She threw a smoke grenade, blindfolded herself, and whispered to the nearest speaker. You know what the problem is with predictability. It assumes I'll care about playing the game correctly. She took off running, blindfolded, directly into the Drazikron clone, ducked under its strike, stole its wrist blaster mid-swing, then used the recoil to launch herself over a wall of snarling logic lions that had just spawned because apparently that was a thing now. She grabbed a floating geometry puzzle and smashed it against the wall. You want to beat me at puzzles, I break puzzles, that's the solution. Somewhere deep in the labyrinth's core, several thousand AI subroutines shrieked in digital pain. The corridors began collapsing in on themselves, maze elements glitching and flickering. Cease, you defy design, you defile strategy, you. I am strategy, Jamie shouted, hurling a stolen access rod into the control spire's central eye. I just play it sideways. The entire prison froze. Then, it rebooted. The lights turned calm, the floor stabilized, a new voice echoed. Error acknowledged, updating philosophy matrix, tactical chaos logged as valid paradigm. Jamie blinked. Wait, did I convert a murder maze to chaotic neutral? Yes, the labyrinth replied. Thank you for your service. Would you like to design future trials? Jamie grinned. Only if I get naming rights. She exited 2 hours later, covered in scorch marks and holding a souvenir sign that read, I survived the maze, and all I got was this existential crisis. Velkar stared. You made peace with it. I made it better. Xanthoth hovered into view, jaw clenched. I will never understand you. That's the idea, Jamie said. Tell you what, buy me a drink and I'll try to explain how to weaponize a Sudoku. Velkar turned to his staff. Someone find a better containment protocol and more juice boxes. As Jamie walked into the sunset, okay, artificial lighting field, she turned to Nis. Bet you 5 credits the next crisis tries to make sense. Nis deadpanned, you'll just confuse it to death. Jamie smirked. Exactly. It started with a cake. Not a metaphor, an actual cake. 15 tiers high, iced with nanobot-infused frosting, and singing a legally distinct version of We Appreciate Your Chaotic Brilliance in 14 alien dialects. The banner above read. Ciongeratulatons, JAMIE Rex, galactic unstable element of the year. She stared at it. You guys threw me a surprise party. Velkar muttered, technically, the base AI developed an admiration subroutine and threw it, without authorization. It also declared a new holiday, added Nis, who was holding a drink labeled emotional support beverage. Jamie looked around at the crowd, squadmates, formerly hostile alien commanders, a reprogrammed murderbot playing jazz saxophone, and the AI housing from the Charybdis labyrinth, now installed in a toaster-shaped social drone nicknamed Crumb. The party was bumping. Then came the scream. Not the fun kind, not the I found the secret chocolate fountain kind. The kind that meant the universe had once again remembered it hated consistency. Sirens blared, lights shifted to threat red. The cake dropped through a retractable floor trap, pre-programmed for emergency storage. Everyone groaned. Velkar's voice hit the intercom like a disappointed dad with a flamethrower. All personnel, we are experiencing a full reality breach. Cross-dimensional contact confirmed. Containment impossible. Prepare for, I don't even know anymore. Jamie chucked her drink into a recycling drone and cracked her neck. All right, what now? Rogue singularity, time ghosts, sentient spreadsheet uprising. The hangar bay tore, open from the inside out. And they walked through. Humans. Or versions of them, dozens, hundreds, all different, all her. One wore a suit made of inverted spacetime. Another hovered, surrounded by orbiting slices of pizza encoded with equations. One was riding a mechanized platypus named Commander Flap. A dozen carried weapons that defied physics and common sense. One had a shirt that read Canon Jamie, except no substitutes. Nis whispered, "What, in the galaxy's underpants, are those?" Jamie squinted. Parallel Jamies, multiversal leakage. Ha. One of the Jamies, this one with sunglasses and a crowbar, stepped forward. Prime Jamie. That's me. You've caused a reality spike. Your existence has reached critical nonsense. We've come to either stabilize you or draft you. Into what? The Council of Jamies. Jamie blinked. There's a council. Oh yeah, we run things, indirectly, somewhat chaotically, sometimes by accident. Why now? Crowbar Jamie looked around. You've warped military doctrine, befriended a murder labyrinth, made the Drazikran Hive Queen cry, and legally married Entropy during a bar fight in Sector 12. I knew that wasn't just a weird dream. You're becoming the Alpha Jamie. If we don't initiate a controlled merger protocol, the multiverse will get twitchy. Define twitchy. Crumb buzzed projected timeline includes rubber duck supernovas, sarcastic black holes, and at least one existential limerick that ends the heat death of reality prematurely. Jamie clapped her hands. Well then, we better do something completely insane. The council hesitated. Crowbar Jamie asked, "What do you suggest?" Jamie turned to her team. Nis, Crumbs, Bloop, Glorv, you in? Crumbs whooped. Crumbs will join any interdimensional nonsense involving multiple Jamies. Nis sighed, as if I could stop you. Bloop beeped a sonnet. Glorv grimaced but nodded. Jamie turned to the horde of Jamies. We merge, not mentally, not physically, stylistically. We hold a chaos convergence tournament. Winner sets the paradigm, losers throw the after-party. Crowbar Jamie grinned. You're good. No, I'm chaotic. The tournament lasted 5 hours and defied every known law of physics, storytelling, and probability. Events included improvised zero-gravity, dodge kazoo. Disarming bombs with interpretive dance. Debate duels where logic was banned. Live combat scenario with weaponized haikus. A final showdown on a quantum trampoline arena. Jamie Prime won not through power, skill, or even luck, but by inventing a new game halfway through and winning that instead. She called it Fluxball. No one understood the rules, not even her, especially not her. The council was impressed, the multiverse calmed. Entropy sent a thank you card. Jamie stood on the victory platform, coated in glitter, chewing her eternal gum, and holding a championship belt made of stolen metaphors. Crowbar Jamie nodded. You really are the alpha. Jamie shrugged. I'm just the one who never plays by the book. Would you like to lead the council? Nah, I've got things to mess up here, but put in a good word for me at the next interdimensional talent show. Later, back on the base, things had quieted down. Mostly. Crumbs was attempting to teach Bloop how to moonwalk. Glorv was brewing some kind of tea that smoked aggressively. Nis was napping with one eye open. Jamie sat on a rooftop, legs dangling over the edge, staring up at the stars. Crumb hovered nearby. Everything stable? She asked. For now, Crumb replied. The Council of Jamies has absorbed the excess chaos energy, reality's holding steady. Also, the cake is back. Good, I hate wasting desserts. Are you satisfied? Jamie blew a bubble. Let's just say this, she said. As long as the galaxy keeps building neat little boxes to keep people in, I'll be around to kick the sides out and confuse the architects. And if another threat comes, Jamie smiled, sharp and wild. Then I'll weaponize something incredibly stupid and win again. She stood, cracked her knuckles, and looked out at a universe still trying to figure out what just happened. Because I'm Jamie Rex. A pause. And reflexes, she added, grinning. They're not about speed. She popped the bubble. They're about timing.